My teacher butchered our names daily but had a meltdown when we mispronounced Kowalczyk after we started calling her Mrs. Kowalczyk on purpose. She failed everyone who participated until we discovered she'd been systematically giving lower grades to students with non-Anglo names for 15 years and got her teaching license revoked. I'm a junior at Lincoln High, and I have a teacher named Mrs. D. Kowalczyk who acts like she's running Harvard instead of a public school classroom. Complex name, right? Kowalczyk. Polish, with all those consonants that trip people up. She makes a huge deal whenever anyone mispronounces it, stopping class to correct them with this condescending tone. Meanwhile, she butchers student names daily without a second thought. My name is Xiomara. Yeah, it's Spanish. Xiomara. I get that it looks intimidating at first, but it's not rocket science. Xiomara. I've had her class for 2 months, and she still calls me Zmara or Xmara or whatever random combination pops into her head. I'm not the only one. There's Siobhan, who gets called Sioban instead of Shuvan. Nguyen, who she pronounces like Nujen instead of Win. Saoirse, who becomes Sorcy instead of Saoirse. But God forbid you say Mrs. Kowalczyk instead of Mrs. Kowalczyk. She'll stop mid-lecture to correct you. It's Kowalczyk, she'll say, drawing out each syllable like she's talking to a toddler. Some people just don't take the time to learn proper pronunciation. The irony was suffocating. Working with Mrs. Kowalczyk was like navigating a minefield. Every day started the same way. She'd take attendance, butchering half the names on her roster while students sat there cringing. When she got to mine, I'd feel my shoulders tense up, waiting for whatever creative mispronunciation she'd come up with that day. Zmara Rodriguez, she'd call out, not even looking up from her clipboard. It's Xiomara, I'd correct politely. Here, she'd mark me present without acknowledging the correction. Not sorry or thank you for correcting me. Just mark and move on like my actual name didn't matter. But if a substitute teacher said Mrs. Kowalczyk during morning announcements, she'd march down to the office during her planning period to set the record straight. One Tuesday morning, I'd finally had enough. She'd called me X-Omara during attendance, and when I corrected her, she actually rolled her eyes and said, "Some names are just difficult. I don't have time to master every pronunciation." That's when something clicked in my brain. If she doesn't have time to say my name right, then I don't have time to say hers right either. I waited until she called on me to answer a question about the Revolutionary War. I raised my hand and she pointed at me with that laser pointer. "Yes, Mrs. Kowalczyk," I said, pronouncing her name like I was sounding it out for the first time. Her head snapped up from her notes. "It's Kowalczyk." "Right, sorry, Mrs. Kowalczyk," I said, like I was really trying but just couldn't get it. A few students snickered. She gave me a sharp look but continued with the lesson. The next day, when she called on me again, I did it again. "Mrs. Kowalczyk, I think the answer is taxation without representation." "Kowalczyk," she corrected tersely. "Got it, Mrs. Kowalczyk." By the third day, other students started catching on. Siobhan raised her hand and asked, "Mrs. Kowalczyk, can you repeat the question?" Nguyen chimed in with Mrs. Kowalczyk when answering about the Boston Tea Party. Saoirse went with Mrs. Kowalski like she was genuinely confused about the spelling. We got creative with it. Someone used Mrs. Kowalczyk. Another tried Mrs. Kowalczyk. My personal favorite was when Marcus, whose name she pronounced perfectly fine, asked Mrs. Kowalczykowski, "Is this going to be on the test?" By Friday, Mrs. Kowalczyk was visibly twitching every time someone said her name. Her corrections were getting sharper, her voice more strained, but she couldn't really call us out without looking petty, because we were all trying, and some names are just difficult, right? The breaking point came during 5th period on Monday. We were discussing the Constitutional Convention